coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning.
Hello everybody and welcome to the By the Minute Arsenal podcast. It's another 2-game, 2-win week. I was practicing that beforehand to make sure I got that right, very pleasingly. Not the most exciting games ever, perhaps, but 2 wins is 2 wins. We won't complain about that. 2 wins are 2 wins. It doesn't matter. Luckily, it's not just me. I am Matt H. We also have Matt V. Hello, Matt.
Evening. I'm not going to correct anyone on their grammar. I'm sure I make many mistakes, so you go for it. You do what you want.
Hey, that's very kind of you. Yes, exactly. That's the way. Let's just do whatever we think sounds right. Pete might correct me though. Hello, Pete.
Hello, Matt. I won't correct you. I'll just be impressed that you didn't have to do your intro 5 times.
Do you know, I nearly did that. I could feel myself going as I was doing that. So, well, look, it's all victories then, moral victories so far today. Right, well, let's get on with it then, because there's quite a lot to get through this week, and of course to do some predictions as well for the next week before we get the slight respite of the international break. Before we get into the matches, though, I wanted to mention a couple of other things and see what the chaps had to say, if anything. First of all, congratulations to Olivier Giroud. I mean, just on being Olivier Giroud generally, but on winning the Puskas Award for his scorpion kick against Crystal Palace, which I was amazed to be reminded was on New Year's Day. It doesn't seem that long ago for some reason, but there we go. Nice to see him get that award. Pete, anything to add on that?
Not a lot, other than yes, it was lovely to see him get that award, and it probably was goal of the year, wasn't it? And I still think the best thing about it was that it came so soon after Mkhitaryan having scored a similar goal, which was actually offside anyway. But his was better, and well-deserved victory for him.
Well, was it the same day or the same weekend? It was ridiculously close, wasn't it, to see 2 goals of that nature?
It was certainly within a week. I can't remember the exact details, but it was within a week of the Mkhitaryan.
Yeah, I mean, I must say, I'm not always in favour of awards in football for individual stuff, given it's obviously very much a team game. But Giroud, I think, worth noting, he had to do quite a lot of that himself. The ball was that bit behind him that it was really his ability, his skill, which put it in. Matt, anything to add on that?
Yeah, it's a great goal. Didn't even win Premier League Goal of the Month. Says a lot about... I mean, I think Match of the Day stopped it being voted for by fans because Arsenal fans kept winning. So I'm pretty sure that month Shearer, whoever it was, chose Charlie Adam scoring one of his aimless sort of hoofs forward from 50 yards. Just brings that into attention, the Puskas, but not the coveted Match of the Day Goal of the Month.
Not the coveted one. And the Premier League thing, I'm just looking at an Evening Standard story. A panel, including the likes of Thierry Henry and Sir Alex Ferguson, opted for Andy Carroll's bicycle kick that month. So there we go.
Unbelievable.
He ended up with, so he just has to make do with the Puskas Award, which I imagine is slightly higher ranking than something named after the Premier League or the other one, Match of the Day. Right. Good news for him. Let's go to something that was slightly less good news, or at least, I'm not sure if good or bad news is the way to describe it, but the Arsenal AGM took place last week, since we did the last pod, and, well, it sounded like a barrel of laughs. I've read a few reports about it. I don't know if we need to go into the detail particularly, but Arsene Wenger seems to have come out with some credit in that he speaks quite well, but Ivan Gazidis, Stan Kroenke, who may as well not have been there. Apparently, I didn't realise he actually was there, just didn't say a word. And most of all, the person that seems to put people's backs up is Sir Chips Keswick, which, it's maybe the first time many people have heard of him. But, Matt, any thoughts on anything you read about the AGM?
Oh, it was absolute chaos by the look of things. Paul Merson kept calling him Mr. Chips this weekend on Soccer Saturday.
Mr. Chips, isn't that the guy? That's the name of the character in that Roy Walker catchphrase thing.
Catchphrase, yeah.
Yeah.
And Jeff Stelling let him get away with it twice before interrupting the third time. So Sir Chips, to give him the credit, I don't know if he deserves it or not, but the credit he has. It was so strange. It started with him sort of there to re-vote for his thing after those in attendance didn't vote in favour of his re-election. Obviously, Kroenke can easily just re-elect him as the majority shareholder. But you think maybe, having sensed that, he'd go in with a tone of a bit more tact, realising there's a lot of anger, maybe just try and give the impression you care. But no. Sir Chips had other ideas. There was one woman who asked him about diversity on the board, whether she asked for it 6 years in a row, and every year they'll say we look into it, which, is a fair question. I read something that the board is, all male, all white, and has an average age of 65, which without Josh, you're probably 165. So, and instead of answering it, he simply said, "Thank you for your statement. Do we have another question?" Which started absolute uproar. He then said, "Oh, you're getting all angry. We can't carry on," and told people if they had a problem to write in. The arrogance, really, the way which he treated the AGM. This is pretty much the one time a year that fans feel like they can, or shareholders voice their grievances, and he just dismissed it with such arrogance. Then said, if you want to hear what Kroenke thinks, read the Daily Telegraph from yesterday. I don't know if he had these lines prepared before he came in, but
he did sound like a man who'd had a couple of sharpeners before he sort of went in. Like he had his fighting trousers on, as it were, before it started. It did have.
It was like he's clearly not very happy. He didn't get re-elected. Decided he's going to go on the attack. But I'm not sure what's more ridiculous: him saying that about reading the Telegraph to see what Kroenke thinks, or Kroenke thinking that's okay to just sit there sheepishly while this is going on, and then just scurry out at the end.
I don't know if you're absolutely right. I don't know if he has to be there. I'm sure he doesn't have to be there if he doesn't want to be. But if you're there, you just end up looking slightly simple, like other people have to speak for you if you just sit there, mouth closed and awkwardly not saying anything. It does seem very odd. Pete, any thoughts on that or anything about Gazidis' objective metrics, which I love that phrase. I'm going to use that as often as I can from now on, which makes us essentially the best team in the Premier League.
Isn't it on the planet?
Oh wait, was it the planet?
Well, it was compared to all other big clubs.
Well, oh goodness, I missed that bit. Well, there we go then.
I would agree with everything Matt said there about Sir Chips. It was all quite amusing, really, in many ways. I think it just shows what this club is now is all about in terms of its management and ownership. And the fact that Stan Kroenke says nothing shows, to me, doesn't show sheepishness. It just shows complete disregard for anyone else's opinion or anyone's wish to hear his. That we are controlled by this guy. There's no doubt about that. We can't get rid of him, and we can't get rid of whoever he wants on the board. So, we've just got to live with that, haven't we? And that may be depressing, but that's what Arsenal are at the moment, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. This guy's clearly he's all powerful, and he has every intention of staying exactly where he is and running the club in exactly the way he has done continuously. We're just going to have to get used to it, aren't we?
We're laughing about it, but yes, you're right. Actually, this doesn't change anything, does it? It didn't change anything. Nothing changed before or after, really. And I think the problem we have is, as fans, is that looks like that's going to be the state of affairs for the foreseeable future. Other clubs have people coming in, splashing the cash, and whilst we might sometimes have a certain moral ambivalence about that when you see where some of the money might be coming from, you sort of know where you are with it at least. You can make your peace with it if you need to. We don't have that. We have an owner who doesn't actually want to spend any money, or it doesn't seem that way.
I think hopefully it brings home to people that this is actually where, if there's a problem with Arsenal, this is where it lies, and it's not with Arsene Wenger. I mean, you may not think he's the greatest manager in the world, and you may not think he's doing the best job in the world, but actually he's not the problem with the club at the moment, and hasn't been for a long time, basically since Kroenke took over.
Well, it's worth noting some people would include him in the problem of the whole structure, but yes, he's obviously not working on his own. sorry, the problem is he does seem to sometimes be working on his own, but he's not working in a vacuum. He's working in a structure, which doesn't seem to be working, and there doesn't seem to be any desperate desire to change it, which is the disappointment. But well, let's move on, because there's only so much humour we can get out of that before we start weeping at the futility of it all. So talking of futility, let's go to the League Cup, where we played Norwich on last Tuesday night, and after a rather nail-biting end, shall we say, Arsenal triumphed 2-1 with a couple of goals from an unexpected source, but we'll come to that in a minute. Team news was a bit of a not a particular surprise, a bit of a mix. I did think when I saw it was a decent attack, though. We had Giroud, Walcott, and Iwobi up front, which is pretty good. But other than that, it was the kind of mix we would have expected. Matt, let's go back to you for this one. Any thoughts on the team and how the game started?
Yeah, it looked like our standard sort of League Cup or Europa League team. I tried to find a stream to watch this match, and I did find a stream, but I mean, far behind. It was almost in the previous round. It was about 10 minutes behind, so there really is no point. So I followed on Twitter until towards the end when I got the stream back. But the team looked as expected, but the performance seemed pretty dreadful from the abuse I was seeing on my timeline.
Yeah. Sorry, just before we go on, if you had a stream that was that bad, you might want to mention it to the Football League, because they'll probably want to use it for their next draw. We'll come to that later, though. Yes, it was not a flattering. There was not a flattering reports, particularly in the early stages, and Norwich took the lead on 34 minutes. It was a good finish. I also was able to get a bit of a stream going, although I can't pretend it had my full attention, but I did see Murphy slot the goal home. Pete, any thoughts about that, or the team, or the sort of the general, the slight malaise there was around the Arsenal performance in the first half?
I'm afraid I didn't get a stream, so I can't tell you anything.
No, fair enough. That'll be quicker for us.
That's started following it just before we equalised, so that's a lesson for the future.
Good timing.
I was, more than anything, I was quite annoyed with myself for not having gone, because I do like going to League Cup games, and for the reasons that we'll talk about later. I was annoyed with myself for not going, really. But yes, plainly, it was a very poor performance, and possibly a worst performance of the season so far. I think that's because we're up against, a team that are used to playing together and are very well organised. That you would hope, really, that a front line of Giroud, Walcott and Iwobi, with Wilshere behind them, would do better in the first 80 minutes than they did.
Not to obsess about shirt numbers again, but I'm looking at it. Norwich only had 3 shirt numbers that weren't in 1 to 11 in terms of their starting 11. 15, 19 and 23. We only had 2 numbers that were that would be inside the 1 to 11, if that makes sense. So illustrating your point, I think, about the difference between a team that's sort of slightly thrown together and one that's playing regularly and one that's doing reasonably well, of course, Norwich as well. But we did manage to we won't talk about the game for ages, because it wasn't a thriller, as we've noted, particularly in terms of the Arsenal performance at least. But we did manage to get back on terms through our sub, Eddie Nketiah, who was on the field for all of... Well, I've got 15 seconds written down, but I have a feeling it was less than that before he scored. Matt, that was a nice way to make your appearance, make your... I don't know if it's debut, but certainly... Was it his debut? Yeah, certainly an important goal. Mm-hmm. I mean, even if it was only from a few inches out.
And it looked like it was going to have to be one of the younger players or someone off the bench, because the main players we just spoke about, they weren't really doing it at all. From what I saw, eventually he came on, made the difference. I think our formation at that point looked like Akpom on the left and Nketiah on the right, Walcott playing some sort of hybrid right wing back, then clearly just throwing everything at it. It paid off. Nketiah got his goal, and then everyone, I'm sure, was delighted to see there were going to be 30 more minutes of it. Actually, I think Wilshere had a chance, didn't he, just before it went to extra time, which he almost scored.
I think he did. Yes, I remember going to games years ago at Highbury in League One, but I can't remember. We were playing in some League Cup game, and yeah, it ended up in extra time there, and people were not happy. That's all. You get that occasionally, but well, he did the business to get it into extra time, and then he did the business to, as it turned out, secure the goal for us, the tie for Arsenal with the winner 6 minutes into the extra time period. It was a good move prior. Again, I think it was again a fairly straightforward one for him to finish, but he certainly enjoyed scoring it, and I think that the people who went will have had a good day. Pete, any thoughts on the winner, the overall performance, or anything else about this particular match?
Yeah, well, I think that that's what's good about these games. I say going and seeing a young player or a number of young players doing something special, even if it's the only time they do it in their careers, which is quite possibly the case here. But it's good to be there and get excited and see someone really have a great night, and that's what Nketiah did. He was scored with his first touch, and then from then on, from what I could hear and understand, he was just brilliant. And scored the winner with an absolutely towering header for over two pretty massive Norwich defenders when he's only about 5'9".
Yes.
So,
Sorry,
really
of course, yes, I'd forgotten it was the great header. My brain had frozen slightly. Yes, it was a great header, wasn't it? And it had been a good move, I think, that had led to the corner in the first place. Yeah, he really, to use a cliche, he really wanted it, which is exactly what you want from a young player. That's right. I'd completely forgotten that was the winner. Matt, any thoughts on that? And I've got a note here, and I can't remember this, but Norwich had a late penalty shout, which I seem to remember thinking was really quite a good chance. I'm asking you this just in case you were also able to see it, but if not, don't worry too much about it. But any thoughts on that or anything else?
Yeah, I think it was a penalty. The Norwich man beat Debussy on the outside, and Debussy sort of fell into him with his arms round him, so not great. And then their manager came out after the game and was saying how the Norwich players had tears in their eyes, and the Arsenal players had all admitted it was a penalty. Not sure how true that is, but
well, we better replay the game then, obviously.
Well, yeah, now we've admitted it. But Nketiah, even after that, he could have had a hat trick. He was so direct, so quick. Looks really, really good. And it was, I mean, at 85 minutes, I sort of resigned myself that we'd going out. I mean, it wasn't the worst thing in the world, but for him to come on, debut, make a statement like that would give him so much confidence. And now we're in the draw. We'll come on to the draw, but we'd like to see us obviously to go all the way and to give the youngsters like Nketiah and the others more time, because I've really enjoyed watching them so far this season, and it's gone pretty well in this Cup and Europa League.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, to see what, given that I think we're going to get some more games in the Europa League, we should be okay. We'll come on to that in a minute, but we'll get into the knockout bits, we would assume, unless things go terribly wrong from here. It'll be interesting to see if we see more of these names starting on the bench or whatever. And but we talked about this months ago now, about that one of the attractions of the Europa League in particular, and perennially the League Cup is where another competition when we do this. So yeah, it's positive stuff for us, and I'm with you. I mean, if we'd gone out, it would not have been a disaster, but there's actually that lovely sort of bonus bit about we're in it. So let's see some more of the youngsters. And we are in it against West Ham in the quarter-final, which we played just the week or so before Christmas, I think, at home. Now, the draw, yes, we've touched on this. This was it was another one of the... So they've done one of these in China, haven't they, in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
They've done another one which was just full of mistakes. This one, we got to see a recorded version because of so many cock-ups, which kept the four big teams apart. Matt, any thoughts on the draw and the outcome of the draw?
Wow, how convenient that was for the organisers. Incredible. Poor Phil Tufnell and Matt Dawson, digging their parts up all day. And, I mean, I don't know if they're doing it for publicity, because I think, as you said, a couple of rounds ago, Charlton got drawn twice, so they had to do that again. And now this, live on Twitter, for 2 hours, just said about to start at 4 o'clock. And by the time we got to 6 o'clock, they decided, no, forget this, we'll just chuck a pre-recorded thing out. I mean, it could just be a coincidence that all the four big teams completely avoided each other. It seems very, very nice for the organisers. Another home draw for us. I do wonder that if it gets to a stage where, as the Carabao Cup organisers hope all 4 teams do get through, whether then they do start taking it more seriously, or whether all 4 of them will sort of stick with the youth teams. That'll be pretty interesting to see, I think.
Yes, it's always a way, isn't it? I remember the game we played against Chelsea in the final years ago, which I know me and Pete were at, and the team ended up being a bit more of a senior team than it had been prior to that. It'd be interesting to see how that works out. In terms of the draw, I believe one of the aforementioned Tufnell or the other one were actually on Twitter at some point and said it was all above board, don't worry about it. But so obviously,
no, well, that's fine then.
Well, absolutely, we've got that sorted. Pete, any thoughts on the draw? And worth noticing, of course, not that I particularly like West Ham or Spurs, but West Ham did really rather spoil Spurs' evening, but with I think it's safe to say, pretty unexpected comeback in the when they made it into the draw in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that we've got the hardest draw out of all the 4 big teams. I think we have to continue to not take this competition very seriously, is my view. And we shouldn't be worried about it at all. We should just enjoy it even more than the Europa League, to be honest, because I know Arsene Wenger's never won it, but I'm sure he's not too fussed about that. I'm really not too fussed about it either. So, it's nice to have a home game, I guess, and it'd be more interesting, I think, to see how seriously West Ham take it in some ways.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because they've obviously got their own problems at the wrong end of the table, and giving away last-minute equalisers to Palace is as they did at the weekend is never good for one's confidence. But okay, well look, we'll leave that one there, and we will look forward to the next round. Seems a long way to go. So I don't think they've agreed the date yet, but the 19th or 20th of December or somewhere around that. So we'll see how that goes, and that should, I assume, be on the telly somewhere. So we may not scramble around for dodgy streams. Right then, let's move on then, because time is pressing, and we have a few things to get through. So, for the 3rd time in a week, Arsenal managed to come from behind, which shows a certain degree of confidence, which we can come on to later perhaps, as we played Swansea at 3 o'clock on Saturday, which was odd and a bit disconcerting. Arsenal 2, Swansea 1, after going behind. Well, where do we start with this? Well, the team news, as we normally do. We went with the 3 up front again that we had against Everton. Lacazette, Alexis and Ozil. And looking at the team, I think there's an argument to be said for that being our strongest 11. Obviously, you can argue about Mertesacker starting, but given sort of restrictions on injuries and whatnot, I think it's a pretty good team. Pete, any thoughts about the lineup and the approach?
Yeah, no, I think as you say, that is our strongest team if we're playing 3 at the back. There might be other things you could do if you would play a back 4, but playing 3 at the back, that is our strongest team. And it's the first time that we've seen the front 3 together at home, and it was not as impressive a performance by them as the one against Everton, and a rather not miserable, I don't think, but the first half was more back to what as I said before, we've been kind of getting used to, which is, I mean, okay, we gave away a goal, but in general, it seemed to me to be quite a dull but workmanlike performance in that first half. We were doing what we needed to do, and other than giving away a goal, we played. It may have been dull, but it was, as I say, workmanlike. And I think we have to remember that Swansea were coming into this game only having conceded 1 goal away from home at all in their previous matches. So it was always going to be hard. And I think what we saw is that. And I'm not getting at Ozil here because I think he's great, but he when he's got space to run into and to exploit, as he had against Everton, he can be thrilling and fantastic. Where he's in a situation of trying to break down packed defences, he's maybe not so effective.
Yeah, okay, well, good point. And it wasn't Swansea's defence we had to worry about it first. It was the goal, and Bellerin caught out slightly for this. It was a good ball behind him, and Klukas ended up putting it away. Matt, any thoughts on the team news, the first half, the slightly underpowered, should we say, Arsenal performance compared to the game against Everton, for example?
Yeah, we're making a habit of conceding with the opposition's pretty much first time in our half. Keeps happening. It was a really good ball from Abraham to Klukas. I've seen some people criticise Czech for not coming out quick enough, but don't think he's hugely at fault for that, to be honest. They go 1-0 up. Was it also in the first half where Mertesacker had that thing where he had the ball and in instalments fell down and they almost
I
made it
think
2-0?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, wasn't a great look, but Czech sort of saved us there. We do. I know we have lovely halves like we did against Everton, but I've seen some grim first half performances in terms of enjoyment of watching so far this season, especially at home. But I mean, we'll come to the second half and the goals. I guess that's all that matters. But if we could start a bit quicker and not keep going behind, that'd be great.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, the teams we played, Everton, Swansea, and Norwich this week. Now, with respect to all of them, they're not, the very top level teams. There are other teams, including a couple not very far away in our future, who, if you go one down to them, it's a real uphill struggle to come back. So, and yeah, you're right. It's not so much the timing in these cases. It's the first attack kind of thing, which is a problem. But let's look at the brighter side then. So, not much fun by half time, but then we saw the Kolasinac show a little bit in the second half. Nice to get back to level terms pretty quickly, and we did so on 51 minutes with the ball coming across to him, and kept his cool to rifle it back across and into the net. And tell you what, as we've got a lot to still got stuff to get through. So let's sort of take both goals in one. He then also helped Ramsey to get his 50th goal for Arsenal and have Arsenal take the lead. Pete, a nice sort of 10 minutes for Arsenal with Kolasinac at the centre of everything.
Yeah, Kolasinac, he's back, isn't he? He's certainly had a dip in the last in the few games before this, and he started the season playing very similarly and looking like he was going to be well, he already is a cult hero, but I think he has had a dip, and it may be down to this injury that seems to be suggested he's been carrying for quite a while. But he certainly came back into his own in that second half, and he was the man who got us both back into the match and won it for us. So well-deserved man of the match award for him. And let's just hope he can continue it. And this injury that he obviously went off with is not too bad to keep him out.
Yes, good point about the injury. We'll keep fingers crossed. The last I saw suggested he may be all right for the weekend. Let's assume he probably wouldn't have played on Thursday anyway. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. Matt, your thoughts on the second half of the goals and a word on Ramsey's 50th, if you like.
Yeah, good to see him get that. In his 50 goals, he's obviously had some really important ones. 2 FA Cup winners. A player that seems to get a lot of criticism, but no, I'm a huge fan. And it was a pretty composed finish into the near post. I think, talking of composure, Kolasinac in particular, when he is in those positions, looks up and does seem to pick a man out, whereas, not to dig him out, but Bellerin perhaps not quite as composed in those positions, not as clinical, but it was a great 10 minutes, and that set us up really for the rest of the game to hang on to the 3 points which we really needed. And considering the start we've had and all the dreadful performances, the table is not looking too dreadful, all things considering.
No, it's not, is it? It's we'll come to that in a second, actually. I was just going to mention some of the stats just to sort of illustrate Pete's point about workmanlike. We had 73% of the possession. We completed over 800 passes, whereas Swansea didn't quite get to 300. I mean, I know they're an away team, they're looking to hold on for points or whatever, so it's perhaps slightly unfair. But we really did dominate. It would be nice if we could turn some of that dominance into some more goals. But we'll take the win, so we'll take some more points, which is lovely. Around the rest of the Premier League, then. Well, Man City won at West Brom, although only by 1 goal, which perhaps surprised some people. Chelsea beat Bournemouth, Liverpool beat Huddersfield, and the big game, I suppose, was Man United beating Spurs 1-0, which allows us to close up a little bit towards Spurs, at least for the moment. The table, obviously City looking very healthy on 28 points from 10 games at the top, United then on 23, and then it does close up a bit. Spurs, Chelsea and Arsenal just have a point between them, then we have a 3-point lead over Liverpool. So better than where we might have thought we would have been a few weeks ago, perhaps. Right. We can't put it off anymore. We have to talk about the fixtures for the coming week. Now, first of all, the prediction competition. We agreed, I can't remember if it was on or off air in terms of the pod, that only 90 minutes would count. So the Norwich game was obviously 1-1 at 90 minutes. So none of us had 2-1 anyway as a score. So none of us got any points for that because we all had Arsenal winning, whereas of course it was a draw after 90 minutes. As for Swansea, we all managed to miss the 2-1. We all had Arsenal winning, so we all get points for that. But none of us got the exact score. So Matt leads with 12 points, Pete's got 10, and I have 9. Obviously just biding my time there. Right, that's my excuse anyway. Right then, to the predictions. So again, a line and a prediction. First of all, on the game against Red Star. I'll start actually. I've already put both my predictions in the old spreadsheet. So I'm just going to go with a 2-0 win for Arsenal against Red Star. We're at home. We should be pretty confident. I think we'll see. The youngsters, the mixed bag of team, if you like, haven't let us down yet in any of these competitions. So I'm going to go for a solid, but perhaps again unspectacular 2-0. Let's go to Matt first. Matt, a thought and a prediction on Red Star, please.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You imagine none of the players that are going to be involved against City will see any on Thursday. I think, can we wrap up qualification if we win? I don't know the maths, but
I think we probably can, yes. Yeah,
so it'd be good to do that with time to spare. I think we will concede in standard style, so I will go for 3-1 Arsenal.
3-1. Okay, lovely. And Pete?
Well, I would... I'm not so optimistic. And I would like to say a draw, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go for an Arsenal win, but I'm sure we'll concede. And did Matt say 3-1?
Yes.
Yeah.
I will go 2-1.
So we can have the same thing, of course, but I can see your game. You're trying to catch up points. So, very good of you. Right, well, we can't put it off anymore. We've got to talk about next Sunday, fireworks night. We are at the Etihad at 2:15, just to keep an eye on that for everyone. Oh, it's an 8 o'clock game against Red Star, just for a change, on Thursday. But next Sunday, November the 5th, away at Man City, who are flying in the league. And, it's not just that they've got a lot of points, they look just so good. But we have to talk about it. Let's go to Pete first then. What are your thoughts and a prediction for this one, please?
Do I have to think about it?
I'm afraid so.
Much rather not. Okay. Well, obviously everyone's great concern is we're actually going to get taken apart, and I think we probably will. But I'm going to maintain a positive attitude.
Okay.
In that I think we may scrape a draw out of it. I don't think we'll do it with the sort of performance we gave against Chelsea, because I think we've got no chance of holding on for a 0-0 here at all, and we've got to get something going forward, and I will be optimistic enough to go 2-2.
2-2, blimey. I'm going to jump in. I don't know. I'm impressed. I'm going to jump in only because I've said 1-1, on the same kind of theory that I don't like to be negative about Arsenal, even though I think City are such a good team. And I know I've sounded like some kind of fanboy over the last few weeks, but I've been so impressed when I've watched them. But I hope for some of that spirit against Chelsea. And I think City are a different proposition than Chelsea were. But so I've vaguely along Pete's lines in terms of the draw. I don't see us scoring very many, though, I must be honest. So that's why I'm sticking with the low scoring draw. But that is almost, I have to say, that's more in hope than anything else, really. Matt, are you going to break the pattern?
I'm going to seem so miserable now. It'll be interesting to see what we do if Krasnak is injured. Do we go four at the back, just have Monreal as a normal left back, and then maybe play an extra midfielder? terms of tactics, I agree with Pete. I don't think we can just go there and grind out a 0-0. I don't think that's possible. So do we then decide that their only real weak is defensively, so we just go at them? I think we're going to lose. I fear it could be quite heavy. I was deciding between 3 or 4-1, to be honest, but now you've gone for a draw.
To think of it another way, this could be your chance to really extend your grip on the prediction competition. So there's the other.
It could be. I will go with 4-2 Man City.
4-2. That is going to be.
I've done that. Goodness me. What a game.
I'm covering this for By the Minute, I believe, on Sunday, so that will be exciting. So we've got draws from me and Pete, and we've got you with a probably a fairly comfortable Man City win. Right then, well that's a bit of a downer to finish on with so much positive stuff in the rest of the pod, but we can't help that. If it's Man City, we're playing Man City. We're playing Man City. We can't do much about that. Well, we have the international break after that, but we will be back at some point next week. To have a look at that City game, and you never know, we might be pleasantly surprised by the outcome. We'll look at Red Star as well, and then we'll look forward to Spurs. Look forward to, I'm using that in a general. Well, exactly. Forwards in time, not necessarily anything else. So we'll be back for that next at some point next weekend or early next week. But for the moment, thank you very much for your company, Pete.
Thanks, Matt, and I hope we're all in such a good mood the next time we meet.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it? And Matt, thank you too.
Thank you. I'll leave my last word just with Troy Deeney, who, since giving it the big one after our game with them, has seen his side throw away a lead to Chelsea in the last minute and has proceeded to throttle Joe Allen, who's about a third of his body mass, and has today been charged with violent conduct. So he's very quiet on Twitter, actually, since this has all gone on. So yeah.
Well, there we are. That's a good way to finish. Another good thing I've just remembered is apparently Cologne have to pay us some money for their fans. Some things. I just saw that earlier as well. So there we go. Money for Arsenal and Troy Deeney angered. So there we are. That's a nice way to finish than our Man City predictions. Well, thank you both very much, and thank you very much for listening. And we will speak to you soon next week. Take care. See you later. Bye bye.